From is one of those shows that leaves you with more questions than answers, and that's part of what makes it so addicting. Every detail, every line of dialogue, and every eerie moment feels like it could mean something bigger. In this video, we're diving into some of the most interesting fan theories about From, the ones that might actually explain some of the show's biggest mysteries. Whether these theories turn out to be true or not, they'll definitely get you thinking. And obviously there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't finished season 3 and care about spoilers, stop watching. Now, let's get into it. This first theory is a big one, so buckle up, because what if Fromville is actually just one giant fairy tale? No, not a book, but a real fairy tale playing out in a twisted, nightmarish way. There are way too many similarities between Fromville and fairy folklore for this just to be a coincidence. Honestly, the more you look into it, the more it starts to feel like this theory is actually true, so let's break it down. In fairy lore, fae creatures are often described as smiling, slow-moving beings that like to mess with humans, treating them like playthings, trapping them, hunting them for fun, and tricking them into doing horrible things. Sound familiar? It gets even weirder. Fae creatures are also known for hiding in dark, forgotten places and only coming out at night, just like the monsters in Fromville. Fae creatures are also believed to take the form of ravens, and what's the first thing the Matthews family sees when they arrive in Fromville? A group of ravens circling overhead. Then there's the iron. In fairy folklore, humans would place iron on their doors to keep fae creatures from entering and harming them. And what do people in Fromville do? They use talismans to keep the monsters out. And the intro song is performed by the Pixies, which is another word for fairies. Still not convinced? Throughout From, fairy tales are constantly being referenced, especially by Ethan. In the very first scene with the Matthews family, Julie is literally telling Ethan a fairy tale, and she brings up the Lake of Tears, something we see Victor has drawn. And speaking of magical elements, enchanted trees are a huge part of fairy folklore. Fromville is filled with strange, seemingly magical trees that play a major role in the story. Now, this next part isn't necessarily a part of the fairy tale theory, but there is a very popular horror character that was introduced in a book made in 1895. His name is the King in Yellow. If the man in yellow isn't literally the King in Yellow, then he's at least a direct nod to him. So, who is the King in Yellow? He's a well-known horror figure who rules a mythical city that exists outside of space and time, and in his story there's mention of a special song, a lake of tears, and a yellow symbol that drives people insane. Sound familiar? There's one more thing. Dr. Mabuse is another old horror character, one who's known for mind control and psychological torment. Throughout season 3, you can see medical equipment labeled Mabuse. And there's no medical brand by that name in real life, which means the From team specifically put it there for a reason. But what do you guys think? Is this just a coincidence, or is it something more? Now let's talk about a theory about what happened to Victor's sister Eloise. But before I get into it, I have to give credit to Emmanuel Iman Nossetti for coming up with this theory, and who makes a lot of From content. Now, back to it. Victor says she's dead, but the show never really confirms it outright. There are a lot of moments where her fate is left ambiguous, and honestly, I think that's intentional. Plus, Victor's memory is terrible. He even admits he's not 100% sure if he buried her, since he only saw bits and pieces, not her whole body. So I'm going to assume she's alive and that she might actually show up in From season 4. But if she's not dead, where is she? The last time we saw Eloise, she ran after her mom who went to the lighthouse, but since she wasn't there when Smiley killed Miranda, I don't think she ever found her. That means she was just running deeper into the forest completely alone. What if she ended up finding another group of people? Survivors who chose not to stay in the town because they felt it wasn't safe and decided to live somewhere else. Maybe these survivors are the ones who built the cabins that Jim and Kenny found. Those cabins have to be there for a reason, and they even had a garden, which means someone was living there. And remember that weird noise they heard while they were sleeping in the cabin? What if that was actually Eloise, wandering around, confused about why people were settling in her village? This theory actually lines up with how From shares the same producers and writers as Lost. In Lost, the survivors eventually find out they aren't alone. There's another group living on the island known as the Others. So it wouldn't be crazy for From to introduce a second group of Fromville survivors. And at the end of season 1, we saw a bus arrive, bringing in new characters. What if the next step is even bigger? Instead of a few newcomers, what if the characters we know end up discovering a whole other town filled with new people? Now for this next theory, let's go back to the very beginning. In the first episode, when the Matthews family comes across the tree, if you pay close enough attention, you can see what looks to be an axe mark in the fallen tree. Now, there's many things this could be, but personally, I think it was from Julie. We know in season 4, Julie will be doing a lot of time traveling, so I think maybe this axe mark was an attempt from her to stop them from ever coming to Frumville. Maybe she got there and was trying to chop the tree in half, but something interrupted her, like Ethan says.
Doesn't work like that.
But you
can visit the chapters, but you can't change them.
So did the man in yellow show up to stop her? Or maybe she came too late and the Matthews family RV was just about to show up, so she stopped and ran. Now let's talk about a theory on how they might actually escape Frumville. What if the only real way out is by boat? I know it sounds stupid, and honestly I hope this isn't true, but there's actually a lot of evidence that backs this theory up. First off, when Victor and Tabitha look at the cave drawings, you can clearly see what looks like people on boats. Then there's the way the show keeps up bringing water. When Elgin first arrives in Frumville, he's having strange dreams and asks Fatima to take him to the water, but when they get to the pond, his face makes it pretty clear that's not the water he was talking about. And here's something weird. In the second episode of season 1, if you listen closely, you can hear the monsters whispering, "Row, row, row your boat." Some fans even claim you can hear them say, "Don't let them get to the water." I don't personally hear that, but I'll let you guys take a listen and decide for yourselves. Now, if that line is real, it would be a huge clue. But at the same time, the monsters love messing with people, so they could just be saying random creepy stuff to freak out Jim, Christy, and Boyd. Speaking of Boyd, he has a lot of moments where he talks about boats. At first, it seems like a character trait, like he's annoyed that he never got the boat he always wanted, but then even the Camino woman seems to mess with him about it. When she shows him the picture of his house, his boat is purposely missing. He even points it out while talking to Elgin. The fact that the show keeps bringing this up is strange. If this theory is true, then all of these moments would finally make sense, but if not, then the writers must have something else planned for all these boat references. But what do you guys think? Is this all just a coincidence, or is a boat really the key to escaping Frumville? Speaking of escaping Frumville, let's talk about another interesting idea. What if the only way to escape Frumville is at night? I know it sounds crazy at first, but when you really think about it, it's not that hard to believe. I mean, the monsters only come out at night, making it super dangerous to even try and leave, and Miranda tried to save the children at night. This is also the only time we see one of the monsters run, so Miranda was clearly onto something. There's also the talismans in Frumville that only work when you're inside a closed space, making people feel safe at night from the monsters. But what if that is exactly what the monsters want? Think about it. Why would anyone risk wandering around at night or trying to find a way out when the talismans make them feel secure? It's almost like the talismans are a way to keep people trapped and stop them from even trying to escape. Speaking of the talismans, there's also a theory that they don't actually work at all. We all know the monsters love to mess with the residents, so what if the talismans are just another part of their twisted game? This could even tie into the last theory. Maybe the monsters are just pretending the talismans work to keep everyone feeling safe and stop them from trying to escape Frumville. And can't you just see a scene where things are ramping up and someone thinks they're safe behind a talisman, but then the monster just opens the door and walks in? Now, this next theory is one I actually came up with, so let me know what you guys think. What if Frumville is never in the same spot? We learn in season 1 that everyone who ends up in Frumville came from a completely different place in America. That means the town could be constantly moving, and like I said before, the show shares the same producers and writers as Lost. And if you've seen Lost, then you know that they had the island move locations to stop people from finding it. So it's not too far-fetched to think that Frumville might actually work the same way, constantly moving around the country. This could be a way to make it so people who escape Frumville won't be able to ever find it again to help the others escape. I know I'm bringing up Lost a lot in this video, but the shows actually have a lot of things in common. And as for what causes the town to move, is still a mystery. Maybe it moves every time someone new arrives, or maybe it shifts locations every night, who knows? Or maybe it doesn't move and this is just a stupid theory I came up with. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And those are just a few from theories that could actually be true. If you've made it this far, thank you so much, and maybe even consider leaving a like or subscribing. If this video does well, I'll definitely make a part 2. And if you want to see more conspiracy videos like this one, I have a lot. Whether it's Red Dead Redemption, Mass Effect, or even Breaking Bad. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.